What's up, guys? Welcome back to the MontyVerse. We are here with another House of the Dragons episode breakdown. This time for episode 2 of the series. We love the premiere episode, but did episode 2 live up to the hype that the first episode generated? Joining me to talk about it is a great panel of guests, so let's bring them on right away. What's up, everybody? Joining me is Patrick. What's up, Patrick?
Yo, what's good, everybody?
Zach, spelled with a K. What's up, Zach?
That's correct. Only with a K, never with a H.
Someone who's an expert on all things people named Matt. What's up, Matt?
What's up?
And someone who you could say likes the Fast and the Furious franchise, John Lustrina.
Me?
Hey, I thought Zach was supposed to be here, not Zach.
Boo.
No, we got Zach today. Zach
Oh.
was busy, so we had to get Zach.
Zach doesn't exist.
Second-rate Zach. Okay.
Guys, let's not waste any time. We got to talk about this episode. I have so many questions. We started with crabs. What is going on with the crabs? I'm
Crabs
so
gotta
confused.
eat, you know?
The episode starts with the crabs and ends with the crabs. But can anyone tell me anything about the crabs? What is going on with the crabs?
Okay, so I guess to establish what they are doing and why what they're doing so important, Corlys Velaryon goes into this monologue about the value of the Stepstones, what are basically a series of islands that bridge the narrow sea between Westeros and Essos. And traditionally, House Velaryon, who is sort of the navy house of Westeros and of at this point the Six Kingdoms, controls those just through basically their own power in the naval realm. And so what's happening now is, because that's where most of the trading comes through, because of, there are islands here to be able to use as trading ports and places for cargo ships to stop off. The pirates from, I believe it's 3 different free cities on the coast of Essos, one of them being Bravos, I can't remember the other 2, have sort of like banded together behind these like pirate kings, and they're slowly taking over the Stepstones, and this is limiting the ability of the merchant ships to pass through unimpeded, especially as we see in a couple of those scenes throughout the show where some dude's just beating the shit out of people on a beach.
I'm not going to lie, it definitely was a great intro to hook me into this episode. I just like, I don't know what this is, what I'm watching, but I need to know more. It's provocative. So does anyone else have any thoughts on the crabs? Or is it just me? Am I the only one?
You're the only one.
I mean, look, like the crabs got to eat, all right? So
that's fair.
The crab feeder, I think is that his name? The crab feeder?
Yeah, the crab feeder.
And that's a great name.
The crab feeder is king of the crabs also. They fucking love that guy. I'll tell you what.
He's striking the people to post like they did Jesus, so
interesting. But since no one wants to talk about crabs and me, I guess I'm the only shellfish guy.
I think we
here.
can feed the crabs into a little bit more of the main threads of this episode.
Okay, fair enough. We'll talk more about the crabs later. But this is the first episode where we get an intro to the series. We got a brand new introduction. The introduction to Game of Thrones, the opening credit sequence, is so iconic and so well done that this series had a lot to live up to. What were your guys' thoughts on the introduction sequence to House of the Dragons?
I'll start. I thought it was pretty weak. Honestly, HBO has a strong history of having incredible intros, Game of Thrones being one of those very strong intros. Sopranos, The Wire, Succession. Yeah. This was, we just get the music from Game of Thrones, so there's really nothing new there. But then the visuals to me were much, much weaker than the visuals than we get with Game of Thrones. It was just a lot of like repetitive blood flowing, some type of valve thing moving or twisting or lifting, and then the blood follows a new path. And then at the end, we get sort of like a wide shot of the whole system. But it just felt very repetitive, kind of monotonous, and not particularly engaging to me. And then the fact that it was paired with audio from an existing show was it left a bit to be desired.
Zach, I agree with you 110%, because you want to know what? This is a spin-off show. Even Star Wars was smart enough not to use the main theme for their spin-offs. They had their own fucking music. Mm-hmm. It's its own show. Give it its music. Let it You don't have people are watching it because it's Game of Thrones. You don't have to throw the reminder, hey, this is Game. No, give us some different music. Let us can make a connection to it, vibe to it, and enjoy it for what it is. We're already watching this because we know it's Game of Thrones. I don't need to hear the Game of Thrones theme again for however many seasons we're going to end up hearing it. No, give me something different.
Patrick, John, any thoughts on it? Because I have thoughts.
I think it's very clear they knew they weren't going to top the Game of Thrones one, so they didn't even try.
It might be a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And it's still supposed to be Game of Thrones House of Dragon or presents kind of
like,
thing. Okay, whatever.
And we had Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Solo, a Star Wars story. Still didn't use the main theme to start it off.
It's true. Ramin Djawadi is such a talented composer that I think he probably could have come up with something that's pretty dope. But I think I'll keep it brief with this, but I think the lack of visual flair with regards to the opening itself is sort of a purposeful decision given where the show is right now and comparing it to the Game of Thrones intro where because we were bouncing around the world so much, this show is going to be, and we've seen it for the first 2 episodes, this show is going to be contained to only like a couple of locations for a little while. And so the whole concept of the Game of Thrones intro doesn't really apply here because we can't be going from locale to locale to locale because it just doesn't make sense within the context of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one here who actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I knew going into this they'll never, ever be able to top the Game of Thrones opening, especially with as Patrick said, a series that's so limited at the moment. But I really like the different saturation levels and the colors. I like the way that the blood played off of the stone. I like the gold. I like the different textural feels to it. It definitely it reminded me of something out of Blade, the first Blade, when Deacon Frost gets the power boost at the end. But that's enough about that. I enjoyed it. You guys didn't. Most people are probably not going to like it, to be honest with you. But that it is what it is. But go ahead, Matt. What you got to say?
I mean, I didn't mind the stuff because, like Patrick said, we aren't bouncing around. I didn't mind the visuals. I was just more like I didn't need the same song. That's my biggest complaint.
It was a little disappointing too. It was great hearing it at first when it first comes on. You're like, oh yeah, but hearing it over and over again for the next however many seasons the show is going to be, it's going to get old very quickly.
Well, you could also start it off similarly and then have it evolve into something else completely, and that's what I thought we were going to get for a minute.
Well, they did like a remix, kind of like in episode 1. And then it's like, oh, just build on that for the intro and have the same style, but its own flair.
Yeah. But what are we going to do, guys? Let's get on to the main, really, meat of this episode. And that is, we have Westerosi's most eligible widower. And he's looking for a new queen. A lot of politicking, a lot of chess moves being made this episode. Some would say checkers, some would say chess. But a lot of politicking for a seat at the Iron Throne. What did you guys think of really the main plot of this episode, which is trying to get the king a new queen?
You mean politicking for politicking? Hey!
These are children.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Which is why I have issues with this.
Yeah.
Hi, Nikki.
Nick, you don't have to crawl. You can just walk. It's okay.
Oh my God. We have to restart the episode, Nick.
Oh, guys, sorry. We'll be back.
Yeah, it's very weird to have them setting him up with a 12-year-old and then this 15 like.
Well, hey, it's more creepy in the books when they don't age up characters.
Yeah, seriously.
When you got 12-year-old Daenerys getting railed by Khal Drogo, it's
really glad I don't read those books.
Patrick, I want to get your opinion because you said something to me while we were waiting for everyone to join in the lobby. And you said that the uncomfortableness, the awkwardness of the king and the 12-year-old child walking through the garden, courting each other, was way harder to watch than the live C-section that we got last week. And I have to agree with you.
Yeah, I'm actually with you there, and I hate that live C-section.
And I think what actually why that is because that grotesque visual that we got last week was interlaced with something that we were used to. It wasn't presented straight on as the only thing we were concentrating. It wasn't used as a purposeful dichotomy to show the role of the individual in each episode. Was it still gross and completely unnecessary? Yes, 110%. But this is just, here is a 12-year-old child talking to a 40-plus-year-old man and saying the words, "You don't have to sleep with me until I'm 14."
Yep.
It's
So
gross.
So one thing I will say is the initially when it comes up on screen, I agree with you guys 100%. It's ultra uncomfortable. But one thing that made it easier to watch was that Viserys,
Yeah.
was like just very clearly not into it. Which I was like,
Yeah.
okay, thankfully he's like recognizing the absurdity of this and seemingly rejecting it out of hand.
Doesn't stop him from falling in love with the 15-year-old though, so I can't really co-sign that, Zach.
No, wait, I think we solved it. I think she's 17.
Yeah, right. Yeah, last week they did age her up.
Yeah.
It seems like in the show. Obviously 17 is still very young, but it's not 12. So that made it a little bit easier to watch, the fact that he was obviously uncomfortable with it also.
Mhm.
So and then of course there is the politics of it also, where it's like if this wedding were to happen, it's not because he's interested in a 12-year-old and thinks that that's like a good move for him. He's like, okay, I understand the politics of it. I need a navy. These are the way these things work in this version of the world. So, you know, the fact that he was clearly just like not into her made it better. Not good, but better, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this episode, it's so weird because I talked about this before we went live, and I felt for a lot of this episode that it was kind of a redemption episode for Viserys. They were kind of building, like, yeah, this was a guy who made mistakes, but he's trying to rectify that. He made bad decisions, but he's trying to be a lot better in this episode. He's trying to atone. He's talking to Rhaenyra. He's focused on having her, learn the politicking of the kingdom. And then he goes and he makes some of the worst decisions he's ever made. At the end of this, he goes and he makes the worst decision ever at the end of this episode. And just like, oh, he's still an idiot. He's still just a big old idiot.
Are you okay with me taking your wife? Yeah, I am. I know it's going to happen. All right, cool. I'm going to marry your best friend real quick without even mentioning that this is... Wait, what? The look of betrayal on her face. I was like, I feel for you at this moment.
He makes a decision that both tears apart his political allies and military allies and his family all in one fell swoop. Yeah,
yes.
Like,
it's like,
well done, sir. He's
like,
yo, but she gave me that figurine. Okay,
I mean,
that thing was very cool.
They had this great moment right there, right before it. You're like, wow, and then you just see like everything they just built torn to shreds. I'm like, ooh.
As Westeros's, I'm assuming, primary model train enthusiast or equivalent, when you meet a woman that is showing interest in that, you gotta jump at it the first chance you get, because you might not get another one in your life.
Man,
absolutely.
Speaking of which, did y'all notice how all the knights, prospective knights, it was their houses' figurines too? I was like, this man has really got a thing for figurines.
He does.
He's like the type of guy who is so focused on playing tabletop board games that he not only paints his own figurines, he like molds them, like he like makes his own figurines. You got to respect the hobbyist that is the king, but also what an idiot. He's a
here's what I'll say. If somebody came into his chamber while he wasn't there, moved one of those figures, he would know when he came back.
100%.
Okay, he would know. Absolutely.
And
would
he would
also make you feel better to know that the Lady Allison also hung around the old King Jaehaerys and was like bathing him and reading to him too.
That makes me feel way better. Wow. That sounds awful.
That is terrible.
That is.
Why are you doing this?
I wish you hadn't told me.
Just providing context of what old Otto was doing with his daughter.
Otto's a fucking menace.
Oh my
God.
God.
His wife just died. Go seduce him. And now I'm gonna have the grandkids of my king. Yeah.
This episode did such a great job. Like Rhys Ifan is great as Otto Hightower,
Yes.
But Otto in this episode is so good at kind of giving these looks that show his true intention, and then he immediately snaps back into like manipulator, like Littlefinger mode. Yeah. He's not Littlefinger. He's like I said in my reaction for this episode, I'm like, he's not Littlefinger. He's like Pinky Finger or Middle Finger. Like he's the precursor to Littlefinger.
But I think he shows signs of having like better intentions and more loyalty to the king. Like we haven't gotten into the Daemon stuff yet, but his interaction with Daemon to me seems pretty sincere, and he seems pretty strong-willed and truly looking out for the realm in that scene.
I'm gonna disagree on that because Daemon called him out on his bullshit last week, and that's one of the few things I like about that character. He literally told his brother, he's like, he is not looking out for your best interests, you dumb bitch.
Yeah,
it's pretty true.
Listen. The thing about Otto is 100% looking out for number one, but he's doing so in the most patient and methodical and slow way possible. He's the turtle. He's not the hare. He's feeling out the situations. He's got, but like the scenes with him and Alicent this episode are just so. It's just there was so much cringe. There was so much cringe in this episode. He's like, "Are you going to see the king tonight?" And she's like, "If you wish me so." And I'm like,
That's still not as bad as last episode, though.
No,
like
it's
go
close.
console him and wear your mother's dress.
Wear your mother's dress. Wear your dead mother's dress.
About as bad as I can.
And like the whole thing with this is that, again, maybe a little added context with regards to House Hightower. Given they are the patron family of Old Town, which prior to the Targaryen invasion was the most important city in Westeros. The center of religion in Westeros, even past this show, up until Baelor the Blessed really becomes king, like 60 years after what will be the end of this show. Like Old Town is the most important city, arguably for a while, even ahead of King's Landing, because as you can see, even in the model, like it's not built up to the same level that it is in the Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones portion of everything. And like that was something I was paying attention to a lot of, to just be like, okay, do they have the history right with what's established in the lore? The fact that they specifically mentioned the Dornish Wars, because at this point Dorne isn't a part of the Seven Kingdoms. It is still six kingdoms at this point. There's a tenuous relationship with the Iron Islands, and the High Towers are really Westeros's most important non-Valyrian family, and the fact that they are still portrayed as such and act as such is really vital to understanding the power dynamics at play.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely helps add more context to everything.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, Old Town, it's the hub. It's got the most prestigious university, the Citadel, in it's like, Oxford or Harvard or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Speaking of Otto, he was in a scene that featured the reemergence of a character from last episode, the greatest R&B singer of Westeros, and that's Sir Criston Cole, who has my favorite name so far in all of Game of Thrones. It's so weird. I'm so intrigued by this character. I don't know if I should be or I shouldn't be. He keeps popping up. He keeps having these interactions with different characters. We talked about Daemon before, and we'll talk about their interaction a little bit later. But he has this thing going on with Rhaenyra. He has this thing going on with Daemon. Criston Cole. I'm trepidatious, like what I should ask right now. But
I'll say this.
Okay.
Like, there's very purposeful things that are shown on camera with regards to how Otto sees him. Like, if you think about when Rhaenyra speaks up and picks him out of the lineup, you can see there's there's a cut to Otto as she makes that decision. She walks away, and he's like, and there's I think it's very telling that he chose him to come along on the trip to Dragonstone, perhaps thinking, if we see combat, let's make sure this guy doesn't get to where he might go, because I think he sees him as a threat.
Interesting.
I mean, him being on the Kingsguard as opposed to these other knights who were more from lofty houses. Him being on his very, it's like, all right, okay, and yeah, I'm bringing him along. It's like he could be handy, but again, if something goes down, like obviously knows, okay, he and Damon got this thing going now, and if some things go sour, Damon will 100% want to go after this guy and take him out.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
but pay attention to him being on the King card. Very important.
interesting. Zach or Matt, do you guys have any thoughts on Sir Kristen Cole?
Oh, he seems great. I love him. He's handsome. He's suave.
So handsome. He's so handsome.
He has real combat experience. Okay, he's a man's man.
He's not a buster, as some would say.
He is not a buster.
Not a fraud. Not a buster.
Not a fraud. Not a buster.
Also, again, being like, oh, hey, who has combat experience? This one guy. That's kind of important if you're going to be protecting the king, as opposed to attorney experience, which, I mean, could be good, or just like, hey, this is all for fun kind of thing. But someone with real combat experience, that's what you're going to want.
Yeah, if you're.
But also, I think Kristen Cole proved that the live combat experience probably makes you a superior attorney combat performer, also, because he fucking wrecked Damon.
You don't want to, if you're building a team of warriors, of Ninja Turtles, for example, you don't want 4 Donatellos.
No, there's no scenario where you want 4 Donatellos, unless if it's a science Olympiad, okay? Yeah. And even then, you'd probably lose, because
100%.
He's a fraud.
Hashtag Donatello's a fraud. But anyway, let's talk about the next important beat of the episode.
Well, I mean, I don't think we even really brought it up. Like, Viserys just fucking chose to marry Alicent Hightower all on his own.
Oh yeah, that was the big twist. That was the twist of the episode.
Nobody was pushing for it. Like, there was nobody in his ear saying it. Obviously, we know that Otto was like planting the seeds intentionally, but yeah, there wasn't anybody like saying to him like, "Hey, here's an option." Like that wasn't even on the table as far as anyone else was concerned.
Like, literally, the guy he goes to for an opinion, who is like not involved in any of this, and is just there. He's like, "I'm a part of the small council. I'm here to just say whatever I feel like." And he's like, "Give me your honest opinion. Marry the 12-year-old." And he just doesn't.
He's like, from a military standpoint, from a political standpoint, from a sort of legitimacy of the line standpoint, that's the clear option. I know it's weird and whatnot, but you can wait before you have children. That's the choice. And he's like, but what if it wasn't? And you're like,
nah.
Yeah, right. I mean, because it's a commitment to Corlys. He's, they're the ships, right? Mm-hmm. They rule the sea, and it's like, hey, it's also, hey, repairs some damages and strengthens bonds from, hey, the queen that never was kind of thing, who he's married to. It's like, sure, yeah, you gotta wait a couple years for her to, be, get her period, basically. And then he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna pick, I don't want to get married, but I know I gotta, but hey, this chick that's been spending time with me, you know what, she's a little bit older.
She listens to me. She puts my figurines back together.
As someone who is a collector, and I'm sure Matt can understand this.
And she's friends with my daughter. Cool.
She liked his collectibles, guys. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, my fiance is now a collector because of me, so it can happen.
She liked.
I'd be worried she wants to pawn those things off. All right, she'll probably get a pretty penny for those.
No,
as soon as,
like little Tyrion.
Yes, exactly. As soon as she gave him that box and opened it up, and it was the fixed figurine, that was like checkmate right there. He's like,
he opened the box and he was like, I do. He's like, wait, what?
It's like, yes, we will marry now. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, and like the shot of the episode is Rhaenyra's face. Like, so as Viserys is about to announce it, he gives this like little look over to Alicent, who is there for some reason. Like, why is no one questioning why she's there? She's never there.
Right.
And then it cuts to Rhaenyra, who like raises an eyebrow, has no idea what's going on. Cuts back to Alicent, who just like sheepishly looks to the ground, and then it clicks, and then it's like, oh dear God.
Yeah. Yep.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, that was really well shot and acted.
Yeah.
It was the ultimate. Like, because I forgot, like, I didn't know if he was gonna pick his queen this episode, but the fact that it happened and the setup and that it happens immediately following a scene where him and Rhaenyra have this beautiful heart-to-heart father-daughter conversation where he shows her so much respect, like, hey, you know, this is your dude, like, you understand what I must do, like, but you're my heir, I chose you, but this is what I have to do, I'm talking to you as an adult to adult conversation. And then the very next scene is him going, nah.
He's like, but you don't understand. She fixed my figurine.
My toy, okay? She fixed my stuff. She likes my stuff. Oh my god. But
I'm going to bring this one last thing up, and it's something I've thought about a little bit. Back-to-back episodes now, we've had a scene where they specifically mention, oh, you have some sort of disease.
Oh, yeah.
To Viserys, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they don't explicitly say it's grayscale. They just say rot, which could be anything at that point. But like, given the history of the Targaryens with like, we'll say the history of mental illness that exists in the Targaryen lineage, how much of that physical manifestation of what's possibly going on there and sort of this impulsive decision making are we going to go see coming forward?
I mean, have we not already started seeing some?
No, we have started seeing it, but how else is it gonna like pop up? You know, like that's the sort of thing I'm thinking about as I'm watching the show.
I feel manifest? Like it's such a great point to bring up because every other Targaryen we've seen in power, no matter how diplomatic they are, or how moral they are, or how intelligent they are, all we know is that eventually they've turned mad. I mean, Daenerys was built up as this. We've seen her go from this weak character, and we've seen her grow into this strong, fierce queen, and then she just goes mad. It builds to her madness at the end of the series, and it's a good point to bring up. We don't really have as fans, as people who watch the series, we don't really have a good track record with Targaryens.
I mean, we do have the opening of this series with what's his name,
Jaehaerys. Yeah, but I think
being
that's also
like pretty sound of mind when he chooses how to, and processes how to have an heir and all that. But again, that happens more or less off screen. So.
Yeah, but he looked grumps. He looked like super grumpy.
But to be fair, he had also been king at that point for like 50 years.
Yeah, he was old.
He was old as fuck.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Well, I think
that
he was like
old
60 in his 60s, but still, that what this supposed to represent, that's old.
Yeah. He looked so over it. He was just like, get this shit done. He's like, I want to get out.
I forget how old he's in. King, like 15, 16, something like that.
Yeah, he like legitimately he became king at like 16 years old and died, I think, in his 70s or 80s. Like he was there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick, you also brought this up before we went live, and you compared kind of Viserys to Tommen, aka the Great Jumper.
The Jumping King.
Jesus. Yes, the jumping king.
Friend of Sir Pounce. Let's use that as a descriptor.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes, Sir Pounce.
Viserys, he was 69 when he died.
Ew.
Nice.
Nice. He lived
ruled for 55 years.
Not bad.
Oh, wow. So
since he was 14.
14. Yeah.
Not bad for Westeros. All right, but enough about this king. Enough about the Bachelor. Let's move on.
Widower.
Widower.
Daemon would be.
Yeah, but the concept.
No. He's already married.
The concept.
But
of
he
this
wants
episode,
to be a bachelor.
The meta concept of this episode was Game of Thrones.
He's giving the rose to.
Who is he going to give the rose?
The rose to the woman who wasn't even a contestant.
Yes. That's like in The Boys.
He handed it to a camera lady.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
That's like that The Boys meme where Homelander's like, and the new member of the Seven is the Deep. And the Deep wasn't even on the show. And he just comes in. But that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's what this episode is. But, guys, there was an egg theft that happened this episode. Battle of the Egg. Charizard v. Charizard. And one of the most prolific actors of our generation, Matt Smith, as Daemon Targaryen, kind of made a power move against his brother, the king, this episode. He stole an egg.
I disagree that it was a power move.
He attempted to make a power move.
But here's the thing. So as soon as Rhaenyra shows up and she makes the real power move and he just He's like, damn it, you ruin everything, and gives her egg back and, sulks back to the castle. It wasn't a power move from him. That's the vibe I'm getting from him. I think I'm getting the vibe from this that he's a red herring. He's not a legitimate threat for the throne because he doesn't want it. He just wants to be an asshole. That's it. So it wasn't a power move at all.
He definitely wants this throne, bro.
I don't know. I think he just wants to be a dick. He's an agent of chaos, and that's it.
I really just wanted so badly to segue to talk about Daemon, because Daemon Targaryen is my favorite character on the show right now because he is so petty. I call him the petty prince. He's so petty, and he's got so much LD. He's got so much little dick energy. It's insane, and it's hilarious. And I know Matt's not going to like this, but I think Matt Smith is doing such a good job of playing the sniveling, little spoiled, little idiot. He's just the way he tosses the egg to Rhaenyra after he gets caught. He's just like
best acting he's ever done.
Exactly.
We agree.
That's not saying much.
We're in agreement.
That's not saying much.
Listen, today was Morbin time. This episode, it was Morbin time. What are your guys' thoughts on Daemon Targaryen this episode and the moves we saw him make?
Again, like my thought is that he has no real ambition. He's just wants to be a thorn.
He's just chaos
in Viserys' side. That's
he's
it.
An agent
because again, as soon as Rhaenyra shows up, he's like, okay, fine, I'll stop, because he's not actually about it.
It's so weird because the first episode essentially kind of tries to paint him as the main antagonist.
Right.
As like, this guy is going to be the main guy that they all have to stop from trying to take the throne. This episode's kind of like, nah, he's just kind of a bitch. He's just kind of an asshole.
Yeah. He's just going to be a nuisance is basically it.
And he's like, these are the real threatening people. Like, these are the real people you have to watch out for. So essentially he is, I think Zach's right. This episode did give him very red herring vibes. But you never know. Game of Thrones might swerve on us.
I think what lends credence to that is we got a 6-month time skip where he took Dragonstone and we didn't see a second of it.
Yep. You got a point there.
Like, that was something that I was like, oh, that's a weird decision. Like, they could have used that as like the cold open to the show.
Funny enough, I messaged Pat. I'm like, wow, we get a 6-month time skip and it's just mentioned in dialogue. And he's like, that's Young Justice, baby.
That's that Young Justice energy, dude. Like, just time skipping.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like that could have been used as something to like lead into the open of the show. Like, just show a cold open of him flying with Caraxes over Dragonstone and like descending on it. Like, it's something simple. It can show it happening. But the fact that it wasn't shown, I think, lends a lot of credence to what you guys are saying.
So is Dragonstone populated, though, when there isn't an heir living there?
It is, but like very sparsely.
Yeah, well, it's the Targaryen home, essentially. Like how Winterfell is the Starks. The heir, while there's a king in King's Landing, the heir would be stylized as the Prince of Dragonstone. So
right, I kind of got that from the way Viserys was originally said Prince of Dragonstone, and then Rhaenyra was said Princess of Dragonstone.
Yeah, so
I kind of assumed that
Rhaenyra should be hanging out in Dragonstone, but she's just still a cupbearer.
So the reason I asked is because I'm like, okay, was this a hostile takeover of Dragonstone, or was this more like a squatters' rights situation here?
It's kind of a mix of both, because I think there are, like, if I remember correctly from Fire and Blood, it's not like he kills a bunch of people, but like he's still hostile in his intention to take over. There are still common folk who live there and tend to it. There are dragons that still live there because they can't all be housed in the dragon pit. Not Vhagar, of course, because as mentioned in the episode, Vhagar is flying around somewhere. No one knows where she is. But yeah, those are sort of the reasons why you take it, because again, it's your ancestral home. There's legitimacy to it symbolically, but again, not really like invading a city and killing 70,000 people, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think just to cap our conversation on Daemon Targaryen, portrayed by the excellent Matt Smith. Zach, you did mention that he essentially spent the majority of this episode getting dunked on. He was the anti Top Gun Maverick.
Oh yeah.
This episode.
Yeah.
And the last person to dunk on him was his lady friend. I can't remember her name for the life of me. If anyone knows
his to-be wife.
Yeah.
Mysaria.
She has this great monologue where she's like, don't manipulate, don't use me as part of your machinations. She's like,
Right.
I don't want any of this. I don't want your gold. I don't want your titles. I don't want shit. I just want my freedom. And don't you forget that. And to me, that stood out to me as one of the better parts of this episode, because I really just liked her kind of taking the piss out of him, like kicking him while he was down, like saying, like, you think you're so smart. You're not. Like, don't cut the shit.
Yeah, I agree.
Last word on Daemon. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here after that sort of the last scene of the episode, where Corlys, after being sort of tossed aside after the announcement from Viserys, goes to Daemon and is like, hey, let's go kill this dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do we want to jump into that a little bit? Because that's where our Crab storyline and our Daemon storyline and our marriage storyline all sort of coalesce.
You know what?
Where,
let's talk crab, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, what was confusing to me about this was not the interaction between, what's his name, Corlys and Daemon. It was the preview for the next episode, in which, like, it appears, I don't know, 2 years have elapsed now. And, like, the Crab King is still a thing. So that means whatever plan Corlys and Daemon were hatching here, like, hasn't been brought to fruition or has not been successful or something along those lines. So that made me really think about what goes down between them, or how Daemon truly receives that sort of idea from Corlys. Yeah.
Is season 1 just a build up to a finale that is dragons versus crabs? Is that going to be the finale of season 1? Are we going to see an army of crabs attack a dragon?
Like climb on top of each other and take the form of a dragon?
Yes. That would be great. I'm all for it. Crab
Water
supremacy.
is super effective against fire.
That is true. That is true.
That's right. The crabs could protect themselves.
100%.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no.
Okay.
That is not what is happening here. I think this is a thing. This is a device being used to once again sort of draw battle lines for what will end up being the main conflict of this show.
Yeah, because last week we did see Corlys kind of back Daemon when the small council was talking about who should be the next heir. He's like, well, we obviously have an heir. It's Daemon. And now we kind of see him run back to Daemon and kind of go like, hey, your dad kind of messed up, my guy. Like, your brother messed up. I don't really like how he's going to marry this 17 to 18-year-old girl instead of my 12-year-old daughter. That really perturbed me. We got to get him out. We're just 2 second sons. We're just two guys that just earned everything by our own hands. Let's go take that Iron Throne and let's go use these crab guys.
But it's weird because he doesn't even say, like, let's take the Iron Throne. He says, like, let's prove our strength or something, right? Like, so it's not entirely clear what his intentions are. You would assume it's for the Iron Throne, or is it just to sort of, kick the horse or something, right? To give Viserys to, like, do something. Saying, like, look, this is what real powerful people do. This is how we do it. You need to step up.
Interesting. So you don't even think this is a power play for the throne. You think this is just kind of him, like, you think this is Corlys and Daemon kind of just saying, like, we're big. This is what big dudes do, like we're going to flex on you.
I think maybe from Corlys it is, not from Daemon, but I think Daemon is just a tool for
Corlys. He's a tool. He 100% is a tool.
Yeah.
I mean,
because I don't think Corlys wants Daemon as king. Like, to just be very
not
clear.
anymore, anyway.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's very Corlys. I think recognizes that, hey, if I can get Daemon, because Daemon, he's got his own people that like him. He's a good fighter. He can help me clear out this issue in the Stepstones to help my people out, like my home out. And you know what? Hey, if we establish our own sort of kind of, I think he understands that too. Like Daemon might be kind of scorned too for being passed over.
Yeah.
Like even if Daemon didn't, because Daemon mentions like how like he wanted to make his own decisions. Like he didn't choose his wife. It was an alliance, a marriage of alliance with the veil. So I think he's very much using Daemon to an ends of clearing out the Stepstones, and hey, maybe that establishes Daemon's own kingdom. I don't know.
Interesting.
To
Very
bump out.
interesting.
I'm assuming the crab people are supposed to be the Triarchy. I'm assuming.
I don't know what that means.
It's like the three alliance of I think it's Lys, Mir, and Tyrosh.
Interesting.
Tyrosh.
Interesting. 3 places
Maybe.
I've never heard of.
three things we don't know of yet.
Yeah.
They sound
And then-
powerful.
Yeah, and I think
Sound cool.
Viserys' initial solution is, oh, I'm already talking behind the scenes with Pentos and Volantes. So it's like playing the some of the free cities against each other, which is really easy to do. They're called the 9 free cities, but they are very much free from one another in many circumstances, depending on who's in charge.
So a lot of chess pieces being moved this episode.
Mhm.
This is kind of just all the figures are starting to line up now. The board's kind of lining up before everything just kind of all the pieces smash into each other.
Well, I was gonna say it was some people like moving chess pieces, some people knocking them over.
Some fixing.
There were chess pieces on a table, and they were changing positions. Okay,
Yeah.
Whether or not chess was being played is another story.
Fair enough. But let's talk about, if we're talking chess, I have to assume that this piece is the most powerful on the board at the moment. And that's, we see Rhaenyra Targaryen kind of establish herself and kind of prove that she may be the smartest person on this show and that everyone else are kind of idiots. Where we see her make good decision after good decision. I'm sure that knowing Game of Thrones and knowing me, whenever I say something, it's going to come back to bite me in the ass. And some of these are going to be bad decisions. But let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to be one of the smarter people. Also, she sort of asserts herself as sort of being a powerful and courageous individual. The way she goes and looks down, or stares down Daemon and says, like, "Look, here's the deal, man. If you're about it, go ahead. Like, I'm not armed. I'm just chilling. The only way you're becoming the arrogant is if you kill me. So make your move." And he's like, "Ugh, damn it, these damn kids."
Take this heck. Yeah.
Children,
And it's
you
like,
gotta hate them.
yeah.
Like
And like,
most-
yeah. And when Otto's like, "Hey, are you sure you want to pick what's his face, Kristen Cole as the newest member of the Kingsguard? Like, these other people, they're from better houses, better alliances, like, let's be smart about this." And she's like, "No, I am being smart about it. This guy actually knows how to fight. So I think that's probably more important than whatever else you have going on. If the other houses can't see that, then whatever."
Yeah,
I don't know. She's pretty great so far.
Yeah, the development with her character was so great, especially in this episode. We even get to see her. We saw that for the past 6 months after we get that time jump. She's kind of been just trying to be as strong and present herself as a strong heir to the throne. And then we get that moment with her and Alicent in the I don't know what that room was called. Is that the?
That's just a set. That's just a set.
Okay.
It's not the same one as Game of Thrones because that's not built yet.
Okay, and they have that little moment where she finally gets to grieve her mother, and she kind of gets to be like a real person and not the person that everyone assumes that she, like the person that the kingdom needs her to be. She kind of gets to just be herself. I really loved Rhaenyra this episode. Again, probably the best character on the show at the moment by a landslide. But you said we're going to get a time skip next episode, so this is where the actors switch. This is where we're getting Emma Darcy.
It didn't look like they switched.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I think it's after episode 3 is what I told you last.
Okay.
Yeah, we also should touch on that conversation she has with Princess Rhaenys.
Yes.
Which I thought was a very strange
Yes.
conversation. I didn't see that coming from Rhaenys necessarily. She seemed kind of bitter
Petty.
and condescending
Yeah.
and petty.
I mean,
And
she was passed over. She had a stronger claim to the throne, and she was passed over.
And that's what I love.
Right.
She's like, just because you got passed over doesn't
Right.
mean ain't ready, bitch. I was like,
Right.
Yo!
Yeah, I know. Rhaenyra literally, she's like, they already had the chance. They passed the woman over. And like, she's like, no, they didn't pass a woman over. They passed you over specifically. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, damn. But, well, it remains to be seen, how much wisdom Rhaenys really has, because we haven't actually seen it play out yet. But a lot of people still think that that's probably the most accurate take on the situation.
Well, I mean, Rhaenys is, the queen never was. She's very practical. It's like, hey, like, we're women. Like, she's like, yeah, watch yourself kind of thing. Like, just because he named you. And
Right.
if he gets remarried and pops out a male, like, he's going to have that male son is going to have a stronger claim to the throne because he's a male.
What honestly,
female.
What I kind of, as someone who doesn't know where any of this is going and someone who he didn't read any of the books, what I got from that scene was it really showed that Rhaenys is the type of person that is willing to accept tradition. She kind of seems like she's defeated by tradition and she accepts the way things are. She doesn't want to rock the boat. She had the opportunity to change things, but after she lost it, she was just like, oh, whatever. But Rhaenyra, the look in Rhaenyra's eyes, like she is just like, I keep saying to myself, she's a dragon because she wants to change. Like she wants to change things. Like she's not going to just sit there and have people spit on her or to her, like put her to the side and kind of put her down. She's like, no, as long as I have the ability to change things, I'm going to change things. And if I'm in a position of power, I'm not just going to sit there and let this kind of wheel that's been going on for centuries kind of just take hold of me the way it did you and not chew me up and spit me out. I'm going to make a difference, as much of a difference as I could. And I kind of just got that in the looks they were giving each other and kind of the body language. Rhaenys looks very defeated, shoulders down, like very over everything. But Rhaenyra just has this fierceness. She had this fierceness in her eyes, this fire that I really loved.
Yeah, and I think that scene plays so differently if Rhaenys isn't so condescending when she's talking to Rhaenyra, right?
Yeah.
If she speaks in a way that isn't condescending, it comes off as, like truly as wisdom and sort of like, hey, these are the things you need to be prepared for. Like, this is the way the world is. And while you're still young, you haven't learned that yet, but you need to be prepared for that and sort of and get ready emotionally to deal with that. But instead, she was just like, you don't know anything. I know what's going on. One day, maybe you'll figure it out one day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It just made it feel like Matt had said, sort of petty and definitely kind of bitter.
Yeah.
And sort of like if it wasn't me, then it's not going to be anybody.
Absolutely. And there's no support. There's no like, I'm going to help you get to where I couldn't. I'm going to achieve the things I couldn't through you. Yes, exactly.
Which is where I thought the character was going to go for sure. But
this is Game of Thrones, Matt. No one is good. No one is truly good. That's why everyone I see, as soon as I say, "Oh, that's a pretty good person," I immediately regret saying that. Because the twist of the episode is like, they're not a good person,
or they just get Ned Starked, and you're like, well, all right.
Well, Ned Stark made the wrong choice.
He's an idiot. Ned Stark was a Donatello. Never be a Donatello.
He was an honorable man. Don't you say that.
He should have stayed at Winterfell.
He was an idiot.
Yes, he was dumb, but
he was
honorable.
Dumb. That's true. Donatello is not honorable. He's a piece of garbage.
Frauds are never honorable.
Patrick and John, is there anything you guys can say about Rhaenyra so far without kind of tipping the hand too much as to where her character goes?
I mean, I would definitely pay attention to her and Daemon. I think the first episode, that one scene they shared together, showed that they had a close. They got along together. And so I think her going to Dragonstone to confront him, I think she knew, like, hey, I got a dragon. He's got a dragon, but I know he's not going to do anything to me. Like, I can talk him down kind of thing. And if, like, she didn't show up, then 100%, like, they would have all killed each other. So I think her going there and talking him down, it's like, yeah, okay, they kind of understand each other, and have a close relationship. Because I mean, he gave her what, in the first episode,
The necklace.
The
Yeah,
Valyrian steel
yeah.
necklace.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, I think like they're close enough that they have a
Yet
fun
another
relationship.
yet another reason why I think Damon is a red herring, because it feels like in the end he will support Rhaenyra.
Interesting.
I think most him is sort of kind of like, I want like the respect kind of thing in the
Right.
concept or the
Yeah,
context
it's
of
more.
the show.
It's more a know who I am. I want to be famous rather than I want to be powerful.
It's essentially him growing up in the shadow of his brother, and him saying like, "Hey, I'm a person too. I want you guys. I know my brother's the king, but I'm a cool guy. Look at my armor. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got a Charizard."
Just if only he just hit the gym, dude, and like like man,
Guys gotta hit the gym.
Speaking of the Charizards, looked much better this episode. Granted,
100%.
but background CGI looked horrible.
Yes.
I was much more easily able to ignore that than I was the dragons in the premiere.
See-
The dragons in the premiere were in my face.
See, but here's the thing: when you're having high quality dragons now, and then they're standing in front of a horrible CGI background, that's when it's noticeable. They're still working on finding that balance right now.
Yeah, I think the best shot with the dragons was the one where they were like sort of zoomed out over the bridge. Like that was pretty good because they could sort of blend the backgrounds in pretty well, and they didn't have to be like because the shot as Caraxi sort of lands like what's supposed to be Dragonstone Castle in the background is like it's a little iffy, but like
and you can tell they tried to use the mist to like hide it a little bit. It's like
100%.
mist to hide it, having the color saturation like Caraxis being this bright red, right?
Yes.
Like take your eyes off of it. Yeah.
Which plays off of the gray very well, and it kind of takes us back to the intro, which has the grays and the reds. But the show is called House of the Dragons, not House of the Castles. Okay.
I believe it's called House of the Dragon, though.
it is.
Not
Okay,
worse.
but dragon is in the title.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Little
dragons
dragons, and then
dragons have to look the best, and they looked real good.
this time at least.
Caraxis like just like "Whoa," just with his big old neck and his big old
His
head.
neck's too long. His neck is too long.
But we talked about this before. The neck is long to overcompensate for Damon's little dick energy.
Maybe.
That's why.
All this show is making me do is yearn for this Disney Plus Aragon show even more.
Me too. Except for Andor. Andor looks good.
The volume. Game of Thrones will never use the volume, okay?
You say that now. Give it 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Also, isn't Corliss's nickname the Sea Snake?
yes.
Okay, good.
Whoa.
That dude is a snake.
That's pretty cool. That's a
100%
pretty
snake.
badass name.
We're doing, man. He rules the sea, bro. Show some
Lord of
respect.
like every Lord of Driftmark, the sort of house the castle that the Valyrian family.
What was it called? Driftwood?
Driftmark.
Driftmark?
Yeah, Driftmark. They're called the Lord of Tides. They're called the Sea Snake. Like the Sea Snake is, I think, his specific nickname, but they're all called the Lord of Tides.
Gotcha.
Like there's a very
badass.
strong connection to the Navy and like naval power associated.
Well, he's a snake. All right. Oh, you're not going to marry my 12-year-old daughter? Fine. I'll undermine you and go kick it with your brother.
My 12-year-old daughter's not good enough for you?
Yeah.
You're going to regret this, mister. Okay?
And he slithers away.
Oh my god, then he slithers away. Is he a thief or is he a fish? We'll never know.
Both.
He's both.
Never know.
He's a snake. He's a snake. But is there anything else in this episode that we didn't talk about that we need to talk about? Any important things? It was pretty straightforward. I really liked how we kind of just jumped in, and it was very linear. We had the cold open, and we had the ending that kind of bookmarked the episode. The people that were feeling extra crabby. There was no. I did like that The first episode, I guess, because it wanted to hook people in with the Game of Thrones energy, there was a lot of nudity and there was a lot of gratuitous violence that I felt was just unnecessary and too much. This episode, none. All like we talked about, all of the cringe came from courtships of 12-year-old girls, which is equally as disturbing. But I really like that they toned down on the nudity and violence, because this episode was so interesting. Just like seeing the battle lines be drawn, seeing the character progression, seeing the storylines take shape, that we didn't need any of that to hook us in. Game of Thrones, that worked for them in the beginning because no one was doing that, and it was fresh and it was new. We don't need that. I don't think we will need that until we do need it, and then
until the Civil War actually kicks off proper.
Because again, I'm pretty sure I said this in the first episode. If they do some of this right, it will be better than anything we've seen on Game of Thrones, and probably better than anything we've ever seen on television.
Ooh, interesting.
That's pretty hype. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, if you like Charizard, then I think you'll be happy.
Well,
maybe.
I'm gonna be very happy then.
If you like Charizard, you'll love House of the Dragon.
Not Ash's Charizard very specifically, but other Charizards.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Ash's Charizard will appear in the show unless
Rhaenyra doesn't scream flamethrower like, at any point.
Well, she screams Dracarys. It's literally the same thing.
Functionally, yes, but
Dragonstone is essentially the terrific
also,
valley.
shout out to Graham McTavish.
Graham McTavish is a G. Yes,
he looked very cool in his armor.
Very good.
Very cool indeed.
Lord Commander. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's so good, and I think that we don't talk about him enough. I think for the small time that he is on screen and for what he does, what his character has to do, I think he plays the role extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
I like him so far, but that probably means that he does something so horrifyingly evil within the next 3 episodes that I'll probably change my mind about him. And I'm looking at Patrick when I say things like that. He never gives me anything, and I hate it.
I mean, he's kind of looks like a badass. Like, I mean, you figure he's a badass knight, kind of like how Barristan Selmy was a badass knight. Even though, like, they're older guys, but you don't want to fuck with because they know what the fuck they're doing because they have experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
until they get cornered in a back alley by like 20 dudes with masks on who've never fought in their lives,
I mean, again, as far as I know, end of book 5, he's still alive, just like Jon Snow is still dead. So, I mean, hey.
And also, at a certain point, the numbers become sheer numbers become overwhelming. All right.
Yeah, and those guys look like they could parkour. So,
I mean, that or because he pissed off Benioff and Weiss, and fuck him.
That's true. And you don't want to piss those guys off.
Yeah, we have too many characters. Too many to keep track of.
Those guys.
George won't mind.
George won't teleport. Oh, she forgot about the Iron Fleet. But anyway, let's not talk about Benioff and Weiss.
All right,
guys. Is there anything left for us to talk about episode 2 of House of the Dragons? Any Easter eggs? Any my lore experts? Anything you guys want to touch on?
The only thing I would ask is if we want to talk about the preview to episode 3.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
Yeah.
I just watched it because it rolled right in at the end of the episode. So.
See, as soon as the credits hit, I've come to the point where I'd rather just be surprised each week rather than know.
Yeah, I mean, there's 100% going to be a time jump. Patrick and I were discussing episode titles, so
we were initially very shocked by one of them. But then I came, and unfortunately we were discussing this at a call with people who also have not read the book, so we had to be very vague about this, and we will continue to be. But we were both initially shocked at like 1 or 2 of the titles, and then I thought about it some more, and I realized, oh wait, no, it's not actually what we think it is. It's just something leading up to that.
Well. I won't say any more then.
That's the most I can say without like actually spoiling anything.
So the thing that you thought that I wouldn't know about is not the thing that I also.
Well, I'll only say, hey, we're gonna get some cool fucking battle scenes. So let's fucking go.
Right.
Hopefully.
I think. All right. So then to sum up episode 2 of House of the Dragons, I think all we have left to say is, don't eat the crab dip. Yay.
I mean. If you want to, go ahead and eat it. I mean,
but just know those crabs were eating foot dip. All right.
We're eating foot.
and face and
face and
chest
butt.
and, yeah.
just the entire human
I mean,
flesh.
just properly clean them. You're good to go. It's all right.
That's fair.
All right.
That's fair enough.
Crab.
Turn up the temp.
Spoil them.
Kill
Nice
all-
boil going.
Kill the bacteria. Yeah.
All right, John, where can the people find you?
If you want, you can find me over on Twitter, John _ my last name, LSTRINA. No H in John as well. If you like your Fast and Furious tweets, video game stuff, wrestling stuff, and just a quick heads up, you can also find me more stuff over on the MontyVerse, as well as Zach and I, and sometimes Matt, over on Show Me the Money, the family show. We're live every Thursday. 9 p.m. ish, talking the Fast and the Furious, where we deep dive into every movie in the Fast and Furious film.
Is this January 2021?
But by live every
Over, over
Thursday.
and over again.
And
Okay?
hey,
We've
you know
been
we are
doing it every
we are 263 days away until Fast X.
I
That's
can
fine.
tell you that show probably ain't coming back, John. I'm sorry.
Hey, we'll make it come back.
Hey, we
Hey,
are live
there's
every
we could always
Thursday.
do a new show. You guys could always talk about Fast and Furious on the MontyVerse.
We could reboot it also.
It could
Also,
be
check out
rebooted.
our
Reboot it on a new channel. I'm
Sonic
fine with that.
reaction and Dune.
You know, Matt, where could the people find you?
Over on Watt Real Entertainment, we got a busy few days coming up. Tomorrow, we have one of the final episodes of Spin from the Reel, our Schmodown show. Tuesday, we have our fantasy football draft and talking about the NFL preseason. And then on Wednesday, you have myself and the affable Jeff Altman talking about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, as we go see the first 2 episodes in theaters Wednesday night.
No offense, I'm probably not going to watch that episode.
I don't care for Jeff.
So I guess you won't see. I guess we won't see Zach on the Lord of the Rings episode.
Well, as long as Jeff isn't there, I'm fine.
Zach with the K. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Hi, my name is Zach M. Tweeting about McGriddles most of the time.
Delicious. And Patrick, where can the people find you?
Much like last week, don't find me.
Fair enough. You guys can catch me here on the MontyVerse and a bunch of other places on the internet, including occasionally on Watt Real Entertainment and other places. But if you like the video, make sure to give it a huge like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because we got stuff coming out. We got a bunch of other videos that we do, so come join us. Be a part of this fun community where we talk about fish and thieves and dragons and crabs. But that's it for us, guys. Until next time, stay versed.